how's it going, my friends and fellow gamers? My name is Fringy, and welcome to Should I Play Metal Gear Rising Revengeance? This is a new series where Should I Play is essentially a gameplay walkthrough commentary let's play first impressions review series. It is a jack of all trades where I give you my live impressions of a game as I play through about 20 or so minutes of the game, you know, the length of an actual TV show, to give you my impressions of a game and whether you should buy it or not. And this is Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, the first PC port Platinum Games, a Japanese developer, has ever done before. You may know them as the developers of the very popular Bayonetta, Mad World, and they are very accustomed to creating spectacle fighters such as Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which is nothing like any of the other Metal Gear games. It's a pretty decent PC port. The graphics aren't that great, but the graphics were designed with the 60 frames per second in mind for consoles, so I'm willing to forgive that since this will pretty much run on any mid-range gaming computer at 60 frames per second, which is the way it should be played. So, let's hop into the game, and I'll give you my impressions of it. And here you go, this is the game. And it's fucking great. Alright. So, this is a spectacle fighter, as I like to call it. You may wonder what that means when you call something a spectacle fighter. It's essentially a third-person action game that's heavy on combos and just mindless action. So you may be saying, hey, it's funny that you like this game, considering you hate mindless action movies. But I suppose there's a clear defined difference between an action game and an action movie. This is just plain awesome. So, you may be wondering who this handsome devil is that is mercilessly slaughtering all of these cybernetic robot soldier guys. This is Raiden, one of the least liked protagonists of the Metal Gear series, and I don't know why, because he's alright. And here we go again. Cut off arms and just, it's so much fun. So, how does the combat break down? You're probably asking. This is a game that's very much based on the combination of heavy and light attacks, as well as a parry system, because there is no dodging in this game. When it comes to combos, there aren't really that many. It pretty much amounts to alternating between light and heavy attacks, and then seeing what score you get, like so. With invisible walls. But, oh well. That's my robot, actually.
We will proceed through the buildings. You follow me.
So, you execute... Oh, and I'm assuming you're playing this with a controller. Even though this is on PC, don't play this with a keyboard. You should never play spectacle fighters with keyboards. So, you execute light attacks with the X button, and heavy attacks with the Y button. Essentially, the whole idea is that light attacks are faster and, you know, weaker. Heavy attacks are stronger. You know, pretty much self-explanatory stuff. And then there is this parry system that you would have just seen executed there. Essentially, there is no dodging in this game. The whole idea is that you parry attacks by pressing the X button and aiming the stick in the direction of the attack that is being executed on you at the right time. And then quick time events. But they're actually really fun in this, despite how much I hate quick time events. And then you get to execute blade mode, which is what's happening right now, where everything goes into slow motion and you just cut everything into tiny little pieces. And it even counts it in the corner, which is just awesome. And it's so damn satisfying. That's probably the key thing that emulates through this entire game, is it's so satisfying. Everything in this game is so satisfying. Just mauling through enemies, and even like just really challenging battles, of which there are plenty in this game. It's just very challenging and just very fun. And I suppose the incentive to play this game through, because I hear that it's relatively short, is to go through again, you know, on higher difficulties. That's where a lot of the fun comes in if you're playing a lot of these sort of spectacle fighters like God of War or Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, which it is very similar to, since, I mean, Platinum Games is just accustomed to developing this stuff, and then this. So the combat system itself is just highly entertaining. And when you go into blade mode to finish off enemies, you rip out their spines and regain energy. And you activate blade mode using the power cores in the top left hand corner that is blue. And it also replenishes your health. It gets a little bit repetitive, but it's okay. And there's stealth in this game for whatever reason you would want to do stealth in this game. Because even though it's a Metal Gear game, it's a Metal Gear game in name alone. It is not, yeah, there's ripping out their spines, because they're cyborgs. Don't feel too bad, this isn't like Mortal Kombat level of sick. No, this game is gory as shit. And you cut them up and steal their spines. Or at least that's what you're meant to do. But it's just, it's hectic, and it's so fun just doing that. So, you may be wondering, well, the graphics are quite mediocre, and you would be right. They're not nothing to write home about. But here's the thing about this, is that this game is so fun that I could care less. I couldn't care less, really. It's just, it's so much fun.
You can engage if you wish. It is your choice.
Yeah, it is my choice, and I'm going to engage. And the variety of enemies could probably be increased a little bit more. I'd say that's probably one of the problems this game has, is that, like, a lot of it is fighting Metal Gears and cyborg human people and cutting them open and ripping out their things. But it's so much fun to do this. And just the sheer crazy action that this game has, it's just so, it's so refreshing from a year that has been very much filled with very story-driven games, which, trust me, I love story-driven games. But even I sometimes need to just have my indulgent fix of just cutting things up in just this ridiculous orgy of violence. And I'm sure you guys would too. Because there's, I mean, here's the way I look at video games, is that, like, people who know me will know that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of, like, just these action movies that have absolutely no substance and are just over-the-top ridiculous. Pretty much every Michael Bay movie. But the thing about this is that, unlike a movie which is all about watching, where a lot of it does come down to story and characters, video games are interactive. And that's one of their biggest strengths, is that, you know, what's the point of having a game that's got lots of substance, like a really stellar story, if it also has to lean back on conventional game tropes, like, you know, actual gameplay mechanics? This is the strength of games like The Walking Dead, that pretty much ditch conventional gameplay mechanics and focus entirely on story, and that's what I'm okay with. But then other titles like BioShock Infinite, which is a great game still, it puts the story first, which sort of detriments the rest of the gameplay experience. Whereas this game goes the opposite way. I mean, like, there's lots of dialogue, lots of cutscenes, which I am not really a fan of in a title like this. Probably the lower points of the game, because all of the enjoyment for me comes from the gameplay. It's just, the gameplay is so solid. So let's talk about the other aspects of the game. Here's the voice acting. It's very mixed bag. A lot of people tell me the Metal Gear Solid games have great voice acting, and this being my first time actually properly playing a Metal Gear game, even though this is barely a Metal Gear game, it's not giving me a good impression of the actual voice acting. I mean, Raiden does a decent job, even though everybody seems to hate him, which blows my mind. He's alright, he's not great, he's not bad. I mean, I like Snake more, but Boris, like, this guy's got terrible voice acting. It's some of them are just really, really cringeworthy. It is a Japanese game after all. The story is actually pretty decent. Like, at first, it's very slow to start. Like, it is really slow to start, but it improves over time, which is good. I'm not going to tell you what happens though, but there may be spoilers in this, but, you know, up to you, I guess. But you get to see the gameplay in this game, which is just so stellar.
Unofficially?
I'll do all I can over the codec to help.
These go on for a really long time.
Are doing any more than you.
Спасибо, товарищ. Спасибо.
Okay, fucking finally. So we get to the action, where you get to see more of just what makes this game so great. I mean, like, look at this! And it comes into that whole argument that people like to bring, like, well, it's not realistic. Who cares? It's awesome! Or like, oh, look, the graphics aren't that good. Like, who cares? This game is so much fun! And the combat is just incredibly satisfying. It really puts games like Assassin's Creed to shame. You know, a game that pretends that it has this really good combat system, but it really doesn't. Like, Assassin's Creed's combat is definitely... Oh, I had him there. Yeah, and then I died, of course. But we'll get to go back through it again. Sorry about the coughing. So you may notice that their limbs light red or orange, or so to speak. That indicates when they are getting ready to attack. And that indicates when you need to parry and what direction which you need to parry at. Which is very much a... You know, it requires a lot of timing. More so than Assassin's Creed, where it essentially breaks down to hold, like, you know, R2 and then tap square at the right time and you win. I mean, look at that! Look at it! It's so cool! It's just crazy, ridiculous combat, and I'm loving it. And we can't even go on without discussing the music in this game. This game has some of the best music ever in a video game. It adds so much to the actual experience. It crescendos at the exact right moments. It is, and then this! Just look at it! It's so hectic. I mean, can you tell I'm having fun? I'm pretty sure I've made it abundantly clear that I am enjoying this game immensely. Just slicing everything you can find to 1,000,000 pieces. Oh! There's an example of the terrible voice acting in this game. But it's just ridiculous fun. The music is probably the highlight of the sound design. Like, the sound effects themselves are just fantastic. But it's really the music. It's high-paced, action-packed. It matches the game perfectly. It's really good. And I know that the Metal Gear Solid games have had great soundtracks. Like, this I know. And this game is just an excellent example of that. And the rock-solid frame rate, you know, it adds to the game so much. Like, I am so glad that Platinum Games is one of the few developers alongside the Call of Duty developers who understand the importance of the frame rate to the actual gaming experience. This is something I've talked about a lot recently. And oh man. It's... oh, yes! It's so good, this combat. And it's balls to the wall action non-stop the entire time. And I love that. And I know it's odd coming from a guy like me who's typically not really a fan of such tropes, you know, like a guy who hates action movies of late because they're so damn shallow. But the strength of a game is that this game understands what it means to be a enjoyable video game. And that's something a lot of games have forgotten. That's something a lot of games have forgotten recently, is how to be really just enjoyable times. This game doesn't care that it's action all the time and that the story is just a way of setting up these amazing set pieces and encountering these crazy enemies. It doesn't care that you can slice through like these massive helicopters. It doesn't care. It just says, you know what? Here's a katana. You know, here's some cyborgs to kill and some robots, and just do it and have a blast doing it. And enjoy this fantastic combat experience, something that has been very lacking in recent titles that have come out. And I would say that I have my PS4, and I would take this game over a number of the titles that have come out for the launch of the next-gen consoles. I would play this over Killzone. I would play this over Battlefield 4. I would play this over Call of Duty Ghosts, definitely. This game is just incredibly fun. And it's like, oh, well, it doesn't have good graphics, but who cares? This game is just incredibly enjoyable. I mean, you can no doubt tell that I'm having fun. This is the most I've laughed at while playing a game in just ages. And I don't even mind, like, these dialogue-heavy bits, since I'm a stickler for that stuff a lot of the time. And even though here it's not bad, I'm willing to put a lot of the issues this game has aside, just because of how much fun I'm having. The camera is awful. The camera doesn't really clip through the walls properly, and when you go into corners you get stuck. But I don't care, the game is just so enjoyable. And it's games like this that make me happy that I've started to enjoy the spectacle fighters more. I started with the reboot to Devil May Cry, which is better than a lot of people give it credit for. I mean, yes, the story sucks, and the characters are atrocious. Much worse than the original games, but the combat is still fun. I mean, it's not the best Devil May Cry game, but it's still a good game. It's not a great game. This is better than that game. Like, even though it has less combos, and when it comes to weapons, there's less option, but the hectic fun of it, it's just awesome. It does have some. It even has like the stealth sections, which even those are still pretty enjoyable. And, you know, and even some, like, light platforming, as you can see here. Ha ha ha! What the?
No! No!
What was that? And it's just, this will probably be the last skirmish, and then we'll wrap it up with my overall, should you buy this game? The voice acting, it's just funny. It's just a fun time, and it's something that I've just been stickling for while I wait for some of the new content for. Oh yeah, and you can just cut through everything. Did I mention that? Problem solving at its peak. You can't fix it, cut it. That is this game. Cut everything you can find. And you will just, and if you can, you know, leave your brain at the door while you're playing this, and just indulge in a big cyborg with a katana, slicing up everything in sight, you will have a fantastic time with this game. You know, just, not every game needs to be The Walking Dead, or The Last of Us, or Bioshock Infinite when it comes to, you know, storytelling. Not every game has to be like that. Some games can just do this. Just be like, I am a game. Play me. Forget about the story. Forget about the fact that there are giant robots that you are slicing in half with a katana, ripping out people's spines, and even cutting down bridges. That happens in this game. And just go like, you know what? I am what I am. A thoroughly enjoyable action title. And then, of course, you get to fight these freaking fantastic. I mean, just look at this! Oh man, it's so fun. And it's only $30 on Steam. And yes, I know that this game is, you know, a year old. But hey, it's still freaking awesome. And it's a good PC port for a Japanese game. How often do you see that? And then you just cut off his arms and legs. Ah, yes. Oh, it's stellar. And the music, it's just, everything about this game works perfectly in tandem. I think that's probably the strength of this game. Even though there's a lot of problems, a lot of things work in its favor. It runs at a smooth 60 frames per second. The gameplay is fantastic. The music is incredible. And for best of all, it's only $30. And at a time of year where there aren't really a lot of titles out, it is a standout at this time of the year. I mean, really, all of the big AAA titles are releasing in March. That's the time I'm waiting for. So, until then, indulge yourself in some absolutely fantastic spectacle fighting from a just incredible developer. And just indulge in what is just a stellar game. And even though it's not a proper Metal Gear game, it's fun! Just leave your brain at the door, and it's a no-brainer. You have to pick up this game. And with that, should you buy this game? Should you play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance? Absolutely yes. You should play this game. It's great. And I have hardly ever been positive about a game like this before. This is just so fun. I'm Fringy, and thanks for watching Should I Play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Have a good one.